that frown upside down. You have found your way to the Stuff Worth Trying podcast with your host, T-Boy, and the Job.
Looking good, Italian Job.
Feeling good, Tommy boy. How are you, man?
I am doing well. Holidays are here. If you didn't realize, leaves are falling. Can't keep on top of that. Dad stuff coming up, school stuff coming up, work, holidays. I mean, I'm busier than a one-legged prostitute working both sides of the street, man.
Oh, I have so many of those. I'm gonna keep my Appalachia to myself and not share all the ones that I grew up with. But hey, more importantly, what did you do today? Did you do anything cool with the guys in Greensboro?
We did. Worked out, which was always great. Friday's usually my run day, so I went for a longer run, getting back into that. I'm trying to pretend I don't like it, but I don't like it. And then our tradition on Fridays is we throw out, somebody just takes charge and picks a place to get together, and we have lunch, call it Dude Food. Dude Food today was a blast. Perfect weather. What is it, the 4th of November, sitting out in almost 70 degrees. Just enjoyed it. Had a good time. So it's just good to kind of sit back and talk about what's next. We've had that conversation quite a bit in COTs and cafeterias. You know, we've just landed the plane on this big impact, multi-generational gift, and now it's time to ask ourselves, what's next? What can we do next?
Yeah.
Where can we impact? How do we let our city know that we're here? So those have been fun to hear. How about you?
Well, today was a pretty light day, but tomorrow we're going to do a 8-mile. You can either ruck it or you can run it, and we're going from every donut shop in Rock Hill. We're literally going to park our cars, and then we're going to go to Krispy Kreme and to Momo and to Dunkin' Donuts and to Rise and Shine. We're going to hit them all up. So the ruckers are kicking off at 6:30 in the morning. The runners are launching at 7. And we'll just catch up together at some point, eat some donuts. And let's be honest, grown man recess. We're just going to go and have fun, eat some donuts, drink some coffee, have some conversation, live life with our brothers. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
I'm also impressed that all your donut shops are within an 8-mile circle of each other. That's pretty awesome. So
listen, we've got our donuts. We've got them on lock. Now, if we decide to bring in Fort Mill also, we'd have to add some more miles, but there's more donut shops there too. So it works. It works.
Well, let's get into it today. If guys are new to F3 for maybe the last 5 minutes, they won't know what we're talking about. Everybody else is going to know what we're talking about, and it's a big deal. It's super exciting. Not a lot that we have to cover because we just want, this is about being active. So it's not about listening to us walk you through it. It's about getting after it and getting active. As we know, our first core principle is F3 is free of charge. And as men of F3, we don't own it. If we're not paying for it, we don't own it. Therefore, it's ours only to give away. And this is an opportunity every November to pay it back, pay it forward, because what we give in November will eventually reach a man we may never even meet on the other side of the planet. And it will have an impact for something that he's doing, maybe even for him specifically. But this is our time of year for the Accelerate campaign, formerly known as the Give to Give campaign last year. This year it's back with the wickedness. We've got if I'm not mistaken, $404,000 goal. And we've got some pretty cool things happening. But I think I saw your face pop up today on the Twitter sphere, talking a little bit about what F3 means to you. So tell us about that momentum.
Yeah, man. So for me, F3 has been a part of my life for 10 years. And in those 10 years, I'm going to be completely transparent. I've made the best friends I've ever had in my life. And guys who've been a part of F3 for a while, they realize this. It's not just a fitness group. That's the magnet that draws the guys in. Hey guys, I got this free workout group. I'll meet you at 7:00 on Saturday. That's that magnet piece. But when you're in around it long enough, you realize you're missing out on so much in your life that you don't realize you're missing. And that's fellowship, and that's friendship, and that's having a group of men to live life with. In my 10 years, I've made the best friends of my life. But also in those 10 years, I've had people who've poured into me. People who are my senior, who are older than I am, who have said, "Hey, brother, I just want to give you a warning. You're about to walk into this, and I'm gonna be there beside you." But I've had the support of men that, let's be completely honest, had it not been for F3, our circles would have never we would have never crossed paths. I don't work with these guys. I don't live in the same neighborhood as these guys. I don't attend the same church as these guys. I don't look like these guys. I don't often speak like these guys, but in the gloom, there is no us and them. It's us, all of us. Mm-hmm. And so for me, F3 has really meant so much to me in that people were willing to invest into me. They were willing to invest into my future. My wife has said it. I don't know where we would be had you not gotten locked in with these guys 10 years ago. And to be honest with you, TB, I don't know where I would be. So for me, every time November comes around and we have this give to give, and now we're calling Accelerate, it's a small way of me making an investment into someone that I may not ever meet. Like you said, I mean, someone somewhere made an investment at some time that has turned into what I am today. It's almost as if I'm living in someone else's sacrifice, and I view it as an opportunity that, and I'm not, Tommy Boy, I'm not cutting big fat checks here. I'm not talking, I mean, if a guy has the ability to write, $1,000, a $10,000, $100,000 check, by all means, that's not what I'm talking. I don't have that ability, but it's a small sacrifice knowing that what goes in will pay dividends for somebody somewhere that I may never meet. I mean, we can talk about some of these projects, these grants that come from the F3 Foundation. I know your region recently had one, and I'd love to hear about it, but they're not always huge grants. They're not always big, earth-shattering, top above the fold press clippings. Sometimes they're as simple as buying sweatshirts for the local men's shelter, or having money to help cover expenses when, hey, it's Christmas time and we need to get gifts for the local children's home. That's what the grants do. A lot of guys are worried, hey, this is going into the nation. What about my local region? A lot of times the reason that it's set up this way is because it's just easier this way. That way somebody doesn't have to have a bank account. Somebody doesn't have to have a tax ID. It can go into the foundation where everything's, the legalities are taken care of. The I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. But I don't try to get lost in that piece. That's not what I am interested in. What I'm interested in is making a small investment, knowing that somewhere, somehow, someone will get something out of it, even if it's just a small financial investment that I make. It's changed my life. If I imagine how much money I've saved from not having a gym membership over 10 years, goodness gracious. I mean, if I invested what I would have saved in gym memberships, then there'd be a fat check going to F3 Foundation. But for me, this is a long way of me saying I give because I've gotten so much out of this group that I hope that my small investment will pay dividends for someone somewhere somehow. And I may not see it, but I know that it's going to happen. So that's a long-winded way of saying that's why I get involved. But TB, what is it about this campaign? Why does it matter to you? How long have you been part of F3? What kind of tangible things have you seen come from the foundation through the Accelerate grants that the foundation has put together? The mic is yours.
Yeah, 3 years behind you, I guess. We just turned 8, and I started almost a year after. And, I can echo every single thing that you said for the exact same reasons, and I won't. One of my favorite stories about my F3 journey is the day that I tried to quit F3. I know the guys up in Hampton Roads heard this story, so if they're listening, Cobain's for the repeat, and you should be listening. Yeah, I was in on it. I'd committed to a guy to give it an X amount of time. My time was kind of coming up. I don't think I'd ever really invested in myself, let alone in F3. Not in the monetary sense, but in the time commitment. But I told this guy I would run a 5K and I wasn't going to stop. And that was my big, at the time, that was my big goal. And achieved it. It felt great. And I walked up to get in the car. My plan was to say, I forgot my gloves. I'm going to run home. I live, half a mile from the AO, and I wasn't ever going to come back. And the guy next to me, he's like, "Oh, I've got gloves you can borrow." And I, said a few choice sentence enhancers in my head and
foiled again.
Yes.
Darn
Rats.
you. And I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids.
You meddling spare gloves. And lo and behold, I worked out alongside of him the entire beatdown. He's a stud. All that inner voice, that gesture was rolling around in my noggin. At the end of the workout, I'm beside him because I just returned his gloves at COT. The cue that day said, anybody need to get anything off their chest? Everybody doing okay? Anything you want to share? This guy stepped out and said, a lot of you guys know that my son has been struggling with addiction. And then that's all he said before the emotion just overtook him. And another guy stepped out and just, crushed him with a big hug and over his shoulder said, you guys, what Daphne's trying to tell us is that his son really has hit a brick wall on this one. And there's things happening now that are just too heavy for one man. So he just needs our help and our shoulder. And that was the bell ringing moment. Like, oh, now I get it. And lo and behold, fast forward, Daphne was our next Nantan and trained me up to become his predecessor. So that was a pretty amazing journey, all because of a guy, like you said, that I never would have met any other way.
Right.
Had the audacity to make me wear his dirty old gloves from the trunk. And it changed. It really impacted my life. It changed my life and put me on a trajectory that I would never look back upon and say, I wish I had not. I've never gone into an F3 thing, left it and said, man, I wish I hadn't have done that. Mm-hmm. That'll never happen. So with the Accelerate program, I get fired up mainly because it makes me think of how lucky you and I have it. We get to sit down with guys, even though it's digitally, we get to sit down with guys and listen to what they're doing across the country and across the world. We just talked to the guys that shipped shoes over to Kenya. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty awesome. And a lot of that comes from, like you said, grants big and small. Mm-hmm. The one in Greensboro was quote unquote small. It was $1,500 that allowed this guy. He is now, for the first time, able to walk away from his side hustle and fully invest in feeding the community in need through this garden project. And that was an F3 piece of work. So it, for this little amount of change in the grand scheme of things, it's not only impacted his life, but his family's life in a positive way. And he's out there doing the greater good for people in need in our community that could use not just a free meal, but a healthy meal. Mm-hmm. And that's just awesome. I, like you, without peeling back the onion too much, a lot of our finances go to health things that, if they go away one day, great. It's going to take a lot of science and that would be wonderful. But until then, we just pay a little bit extra on our insurance and that's okay. And I find ways to give because it's the least that I can do for an organization that has done so much. And not just for me, but for our communities. And we have one paid guy, Scratch and Win, the guy that's running the foundation is our one paid guy. Everybody else is doing this as a volunteer on a volunteer basis. And that's inspiring. I was never compelled to give to a Rotary or a Civic Club before because it didn't make sense to me. It felt like it was, you had to get your name on something like a brick around a merry-go-round or a bench at a park. And that seemed to be about us more than the cause of what we're trying to do. And it's completely flipped. How can we be of assistance and then get out of the way? And I really admire that. I see that. That is virtuous leadership. While everybody else is saying what other people won't do and making promises that these people can't keep, we're out there just getting the work done. We're not waiting to be asked. We're not telling everybody what we're doing. We're just out there doing it because it's the right thing to do. So here's the thing for Accelerate. Right now, the website's live. You can look in the show notes. We're going to link the website. If your region is not yet involved, it's very simple to set up a regional page. We've got goals there. We want to get ourselves over 40 to break last year's record. But if your region is not involved, it takes just a second. And what we're looking for are individual donors. And there's a pretty cool prize for the region that comes up with the most unique individual donors. And I'll pass it back to you, IJ, to share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background that, let's be honest with you, since we've been involved in F3, I remember when it was really big in the Carolinas and then Georgia. And I remember when Florida happened, and Texas and California. I was like, man, this is something crazy. I mean, we're looking at now over 3,500, workouts. We're talking 281 regions. Almost every state in the union is red on our map. We're now in Canada. We're in Central America. We're in England, Spain, Germany. We're currently in Africa, in 3 countries in Africa. In Asia, we're in like 4 countries in Asia. We're in Australia. These are the things that 10 years ago, it was just a group of guys, working out at the local middle school. 11 years ago, it was 30 guys working out together. And now there's 70,000 guys. Now I can dispel all the great things about, if a region wins or they lead the whole thing, what do they get? There's some pretty sweet stuff. I mean, we're talking a shovel flag, a special shovel flag that's going to be planted by the Nantan himself. So if you've never met Slaughter, and you and I have been privileged to work out next to Slaughter, we know him personally. But there's nothing cooler than when the Nantan shows up at your region and makes a big presentation and plants a flag. That's one of the things that's going on in the background. But really, F3, we're men. We like competition. Sometimes it gets the juices going, and so feel free to like TV said, go online, make sure your region's represented, and see as things start spicing up when you've got 2 different regions going at it, and then a 3rd region comes in and passes them. You just told me somebody just passed you guys. Who just passed you? Was it Suncoast?
Yeah, Suncoast just jumped ahead of us, so I've got to fix that.
So you see, I mean, it's just, it gets the juices going. The foundation or the competition is really just for the fun of it. I mean, Let's be honest. That's what it's all about. But you can go on f3-foundation.org. F3 Nation, there's also a link on f3nation.com where you can check it out. It gives a rundown of the reason why. You'll probably see some stuff where people are putting out like videos, what's there, why. It really comes down to, if you are inclined, if you have any interest, I feel like, this is PBS and we're doing a begathon, but that's not the case at all. Give if you want, don't give. No one's checking. No one's going to look you up and say, Tommy boy, buddy, you've been around for 7+ years. Right. No one's doing that. Nobody's doing that. But if you are inclined, if you have something that you want to throw in, by all means, please do. But it's just, again, we're living in someone else's sacrifice. Whatever you give, it's going to go to the right place. Every dollar that's spent is audible. They'll have an end of year kind of financial report that shows all that stuff. It's tax deductible, so you can always put it in and write it off in your taxes. And if your company doesn't employ the match program, you can double the money. I mean, these are the things you like to say because, I mean, it's out there. Might as well take advantage of it. But really, dude, this is you and I just saying, hey, I'm not going to tell how much we give and no one's looking, but I just feel like it's something that if you can, then do. If you can't, that's fine too. No one's checking the bottom line or anything, but it's something that you and I are passionate about because we've seen lives changed. We've seen marriages saved. We've seen hundreds of pounds lost. But most importantly, we've seen men find purpose and being unlocked into something they never knew existed. And that's why we're passionate about it. That's why we wanted to kind of talk for 20 minutes today about the foundation, and talk about, the good things that come from these grants. But the only way they can give it away is if we put it in. So that's it. That's what we're talking about, guys. That's it. Join in if you can, if you want to. But at the same time, we know that on the other end, this stuff is going to go where it needs to go. It's going to get where it needs to get, and somebody's life is going to change because of it. And if you have the means to give, by all means give. If not, no worries, man. That's just our way of saying it's there. If you want to join in for the Accelerate campaign in November, it'll be going on all month. But if you're interested, we'll have everything in the show notes. You can click on it. You can make those donations. But that's it. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I dig it. I'll jump right in. I'll take the challenge this week. Go to the website, click the link below. And if nothing else, just get fired up because there's some great content of a couple different ways lives have been impacted, both men of F3 and men because of F3. and they're worth your time. If you're so motivated, sign up. Again, get your region on board, be the champion that way. Or, like Ajay said, if it's just not a time of giving for you, or it's outside of your spectrum, there's other ways to impact another man's life. So be the guy that steps into COT this week. This is your challenge. Step into COT. Let them know that you set up a page, or let them know that you love them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this money can go a long way, and so can looking another guy in the eyes and saying, "I see you, I hear you, I love you. I'm whatever you need, I'm here to help." And sometimes that is more valuable than anything else. And in fact, I would argue almost always it's priceless. So there's your challenge. Check out the website, sign up if you haven't. If you can't, tell another guy that you love them. And I think it's a pretty straightforward challenge. Sound good, Ajay?
I dig it, brother.
All right, fellas. Ajay, as always, great spending time with you. For the Podpaxers out there, be good or be good at it.
Love you, man. Take it easy, guys.